Jesus, it is hot in here. Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonky Angle, where I talk about electronic music, both new and old. And today I am going to be talking about the new album from DJ Shadow, The Mountain Will Fall. DJ Shadow is the alias for Joshua Davis, the hip-hop, trip-hop sample collage artist slash producer from San Jose, California. If you know this guy for anything, it's probably for his debut album, Introducing, created entirely from samples back in 1996, and widely considered to be a classic to this day. I think most people probably know the guy specifically for this album, but he has been going pretty strong since then, this album being his fifth to date. Thing is, his debut was so widely acclaimed, I think it overshadowed the rest of his work. I personally think there's more to the guy than just that one album. The guy has constantly been trying to push himself into new territories and trying new moods and ways to contribute to the world of hip-hop and electronic music. Although his experimentation has turned out some pretty divisive albums. Though overall, I can't say there's any album of his I didn't like. Well, since I'm on the topic, I'll go down his discography so far. I agree with the majority opinion on this one. It's an all-time favorite, love it from beginning to end. This is basically the inferior sequel to Introducing, though while there are a lot of tracks that are kind of mediocre, don't really do much for me, it's still totally worth your time for the standout tracks like Blood on the Motorway alone. This one has a pretty bad reputation, as it's pretty much a straight hip-hop album, and people just wanted him to make another Introducing. But actually, I also enjoyed this one from front to back. Like, the hip-hop is really dated, but not actually that objectionable, and there's plenty of other brilliant non-rap tracks to be found here as well. I say it's worth checking out. I think this one's also a lot better than most people made it out to be, although I'll admit it took me a couple of repeat listens to really get into. A lot of variety here, and pretty consistent quality-wise from start to finish. Which brings us to this album. Now, I wasn't sure what to expect out of this album. Shadow himself was hinting at the fact that this was definitely not going to be a repeat of Introducing. On top of that, I did get a little hint at what I was getting into, as DJ Shadow and some other person called Bleep Bloop, who also appears here, by the way, made a remix on Hybrid's Drive Club soundtrack of the track Power Curve. I have to say though, this remix made me really worried because it was far and away my least favorite track on that soundtrack. So I broke one of my usual rules, i.e. don't spoil anything before the album comes out, and bought the two pre-album singles at the time, the title track and Nobody Speak. Now the title track sounded pretty good to me, not like fantastic or anything, but Nobody Speak was even better. It was a really fun and catchy hip-hop track with Run the Jewels on it, but I decided not to spoil myself further. Then later I re-listened to The Outsider and figured out that even the stuff that I initially didn't like, i.e. the hip-hop stuff at the beginning, like Three Freaks and Turf Dancing, were actually just fine and I could enjoy them as well. So that meant that this album was going to be another move in the vein of The Outsider, and I was excited. Finally, the album came out and I excitedly bought the remainder of it and jumped right in. So, how did it turn out? Well, where do I start? Well, I did guess correctly in that this is very much a similar move to that of The Outsider, in that if you're expecting another Introducing, you're going to be extremely disappointed. Also in that he's taking a currently popular-ish style and taking it totally seriously. And while I can definitely appreciate it, if nothing else, well, okay, enough beating around the bush. The Mountain Will Fall is primarily a trap album. And that fact made me very worried for this review because trap is probably the single biggest blind spot in my electronic music knowledge. This is going to sound terrible, but for quite some time now, the sound of rolling trap hi-hats has involuntarily made my skin crawl. While there's always been that part of me that says, well, that's stupid, they're just hi-hats. What's so terrible about that? But there's another part of me that remembers how this genre made quite possibly the worst first impression on me you could possibly even make.
Do the Harlem Shake.
I hate the Harlem Shake with every fiber of my being. Like, at first I just thought it was stupid, but my high school used the song in its advertisements for after-school activities and wouldn't let go of the song, meaning I was stuck hearing it nearly every other day until I graduated about a year and a half later. It left me so bitter that up until recently, anything that remotely reminded me of the Harlem Shake made me want to burn things. And now, DJ Shadow forced me to confront my dislike for trap music head-on and take it 100% seriously. Jeez, talk about harsh. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, he's not really forcing you, is he? Well, no, I could just say that I didn't like this album because I don't like trap music. But that would actually be totally lying, because I enjoyed this album quite a bit. I've never been able to take trap seriously, but I think DJ Shadow just gave me that extra push that I needed to, like, get this genre. Again, he takes it completely seriously, treats it like a real, legit genre of music, like it probably should be. Granted, I'm not sure if I enjoyed it all the way through. There were a couple of songs that didn't even use melodies. Though at the very least, like I said earlier, I felt I could appreciate them for what they were. Kinda like listening to certain Autechre albums. It did of course make me very worried, since I was going to have to admit that I had that bias against trap music and make myself look like an idiot. But now that's behind me, so let's go down track by track, shall we? The title track has grown on me quite a bit since I first heard it. Kinda reminds me of Blank Banshee a little. There's a lot of sharp 808 beats cutting through atmospheric synth pads and some fluty noises. And being one of the more melodic tracks here certainly doesn't hurt. Also, this song is apparently based off of a sample from a 1975 orchestral piece, so that's cool to hear on an album that doesn't really have samples anywhere else. Nobody Speak is also just as awesome now as it was on first listen. It's a ton of fun, and let's face it, wouldn't have been out of place on The Outsider. That being said, it is kinda out of place here, as most of the other songs on here aren't this playful. Really, the only other song on this album that sounds similar to it is the Sideshow featuring Ernie Fresh. Another pretty fun and foot-tapping hip-hop number that reminds me of early DJ Shadow songs like The Number Song from Introducing. I still prefer Nobody Speak, but both are very nice tracks, and the rest of the album is awfully serious, so songs like these make for nice breathers. On the other side of the coin, songs like Three Ralphs, Mambo, and California were pretty atonal and difficult. I didn't get a ton of personal enjoyment out of them, but I could appreciate them for what they were, and I never really felt compelled to skip them. Other songs like Bergschrund with Nils Fromm, I probably butchered that, and Pitter Patter with D. Jones and Bleep Bloop helped me understand the album a little better, as they reminded me more of IDM. I could enjoy them more easily that way. Between those two, I probably preferred Pitter Patter, in part because it let me know that that hybrid remix was more of a fluke, and also because I like the bigger variety of textures like the vocals and the guitars. Anyway, then we have songs like Depth Charge, Ghost Town, and Suicide Pact, which had some rock influences involved that remind me of the stuff Shadow was doing on his previous album, The Less You Know The Better. Depth Charge in particular kind of reminds me of I Gotta Rock, and I also maybe the instrumental to Give Me Back the Nights. It's got this pretty awesome big guitar lick repeating throughout, and just overall comes off as a really epic track. But after it was all done, there was one track on this album that stood out from all the rest, totally surprised me, and won me over wholeheartedly, even rising above Nobody Speak in my eyes. And that track was Ashes to Oceans. Say what you want about the rest of the album, but this track is a freaking masterpiece. It's kind of a slow and off-kilter jazz tune with lots of soulful pianos and a fantastic trumpet solo from Matthew Hassall. Probably butchered that too. Along with other very jazzy instrumentation. The song also has a lot of weird twists and turns, like the clapping in the middle that turns into a traditional hip-hop beat, that won't stop changing tempo before finally returning to the more relaxed sounds. It continually kept me guessing on where it was going, and I loved every abstract and odd moment and the very relaxed and chilled out vibe it had. Overall though, while I'm not sure I enjoy this album in its entirety at the very moment, I still recommend checking it out. There's plenty of tracks that are easily enjoyable even now. I suspect this is going to grow on me even more in the future. Even by the time like trap is gone completely out of style, I can look back on this album and enjoy it even more, kinda like the way I did with The Outsider. One thing's for sure, we're not getting another Introducing, and I certainly wasn't expecting that out of him at this point. Though I never really feel like we needed another Introducing, and I feel like I can support whatever Shadow plans to experiment with next. If he can pull off getting me to totally rethink my thoughts on one of my least favorite electronic genres, then he's gotta be doing something right. But overall, I'm feeling a 7.7 out of 10. Favorite tracks: The Mountain Will Fall, Nobody Speak, The Sideshow, Depth Charge, Ashes to Oceans, and Pitter Patter. Least favorite track, 3 Ralphs. But of course, this is just my opinion. You can feel free to disagree with it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts. So leave the comments in the comment thing down there, but yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all for today. See you next time.